conversation. It established the Federal Office of Violence Against Women under the Department of Justice. It established the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It expanded the network of rape crisis centers and domestic violence shelters across the country, like Alternatives for Battered Women and our sister agencies. VAWA also funds prevention, so we're upstream educating our young people to avoid violence in their futures. Before VAWA, our criminal justice system was not set up to respond to domestic violence or sexual assault, and I know our legal partners can attest to that. Carla, I should have recognized you as being here, Carla Palumbo. And VAWA strengthened federal punishments for crimes and led the way for states to reform it. Such things as, and this is a shocking thing, but spousal rape was allowable. Now spousal rape is treated just as seriously as stranger rape and assault. VAWA focuses on training with dollars spent for our law enforcement partners, and I know our law enforcement partners are around here, Captain Stratton, Pat Huntington Siegel, fabulous, and probation friends are also here, I believe. With each renewal of VAWA, so the way legislation works is that it goes up for renewal, and that's when debates start again. And with each renewal, we got better and better, and we expanded VAWA, particularly in the hard-fought battle of 2013, to protect Native American women by giving tribes more authority to prosecute domestic abuse. And we finally fought for the inclusion of our LGBT brothers and sisters to also be protected from any discrimination in our shelters or service providers and the law, that it does not matter who your intimate partner is, we all have the right to be safe. And it expanded the definition of crimes to include such modern things as cyber stalking and electronic leashing. So what does this mean, VAWA? VAWA gives communities tools and funds to fight this epidemic. Since VAWA, the annual incidences of domestic violence have decreased by 60%. Wow. 60%. Those that are reported, and as we're here tonight, our shelter is overfull. Our hotline is ringing off the hook with all the national attention, so people are stepping out into the light and reaching out for support. But crimes, we can show that there has been a decrease. What does that mean for us in our own backyard? What does that mean? VAWA funds millions of dollars to our local community right here in Monroe County. It funds the Rochester-Monroe County Domestic Violence Consortium, which has 50+ agencies that are working together. So you have law enforcement, our legal community, domestic violence providers around a table multiple times throughout the month working against this crime. It also funds supervised visitation for families at the Society for Protection and Care of Children and ABW. It supports ABW's court advocates, 3 of our 5, and our court advocate leader is Jen Sullivan, who's right here. We have 5 staff right at the Hall of Justice with our friends at Legal Aid, who are also there being funded through VAWA funds. This is right here in our community. It funds outreach through iBureau to our Latina young women, and has training for law enforcement on a regular basis. This is what you can touch and feel. Any domestic violence activity that happens here, you look behind it, there's VAWA. That's it, plain and simple. We would not be here without it, and it was a community response and community effort to get it passed. And we have a new initiative funded through VAWA funds, and I'm proud to share a local story with you with my esteemed colleague, Erin Esposito, who is the Executive Director of the Advocacy Services for Abused Deaf Victims. Erin.
Hello everyone, good evening. If you think back to 1986 for just a moment in Seattle, Washington, it was a deaf woman who tried to get some assistance. She looked everywhere and asked for help in every place that she could. Her husband was abusing her, and she had nowhere to go, and there were no services to be provided for her, and there was no advocacy for people who were deaf or hard of hearing. There was no VAWA. What happened is that her husband eventually took her life and killed her. She died as a result of domestic violence. There was a woman in the community, a deaf woman by the name of Marilyn Smith. And she was so upset by that occurrence that she quit her full-time job, and with $3,000 of her own savings from the basement of her home, she established what we call ADWA's, Abused Deaf Women's Advocacy Services. She was the first model for a deaf and hard of hearing support provider. Thanks to the assistance from Louise Slaughter and the other Congress people who were of assistance and in support, VAWA was passed, and they've recognized the deaf and hard of hearing community. And we've received assistance, a grant from the Department of Justice. The deaf and hard of hearing community's needs have finally been recognized at that level. They saw the work done in Seattle with Marilyn Smith, and from that created other sister agencies, Rochester being included. A number of women from Rochester were able to get training from the original ADWA's staff, and we established ASADB in 1986, thankfully with VAWA's support. From that time until today, we've received numerous grants, one in 2010, one in 2012, and because of those funds, because of your hard work, Congresswoman Slaughter, because of your dynamic team and all of the allies that are working with you for us, we are able to continue to provide our support and services to the deaf and hard of hearing community locally. We recently were able to help a deaf woman who's a survivor of childhood abuse. Her perpetrator was her uncle. Her uncle was a family court judge. Because we were able to provide her with the services and support, that judge was removed from the bench. And we thank VAWA every day. We thank ABW and the leaders in the community for all assisting us to make a difference. There are wonderful days ahead for all of us.